Hi, it's Rod, and this one's called Jesus Said the Way to Success is Difficult. So it says in Matthew 7, verse 14, that Jesus said the way to success is difficult. So if we were getting handed a resume by God about how to have a career serving Him, it would say job very difficult. It's like when Paul said, follow my suffering example like I follow Christ's suffering example. We see in the life of Paul's resume how difficult it was. He lists off all the suffering he had to go through trying to preach the gospel. It was not easy for him. It's like when we try to do God's will, Satan tries to stop us. And it gets to be very difficult sometimes when you're trying to love and you got Satan trying to stop you and the world trying to stop you. They all want to act selfish. You want to act loving. It's like going against the current. So when we start to read the Bible and we start to see what God's will is for us, it's a difficult will. It's like an opposite of the way the world wants to do things will. Sometimes I think that life is like a Poseidon adventure. It's like it's upside down. Everything's the opposite of the way it should be. But that's what the Bible teaches. We've only got two choices, right or wrong, truth or lies, heaven or hell, joy or depression. And we have to make our choices. The greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. That kind of goes against our sinful flesh nature we were born with. We'd rather love ourselves with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength instead of God. And it's like Adam and Eve making choices when they were first created. Do you want to do my will, says God, or do you want to serve me, or do you want to play God and do your own thing with Satan, who's trying to play God and destroy yourself? These are the choices we have. Be a good and faithful servant of God, or try to play God and destroy ourselves. If you want to follow Satan, you'll go to hell with Satan. It's almost like people have two different kinds of Jesuses today. They got a genie Jesus, a health and wealth gospel Jesus that wants to make life very easy for them, avoid suffering at all costs, get rich and healthy and run from suffering or something. Instead of the real Jesus that says, take up your cross and follow me and follow my example. It says in the Bible, for the joy set before Jesus, he endured the cross. It says in the Bible, Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. And it's like there's suffering all through the Bible, and God's trying to teach people lessons about suffering love through them. It's like God asking Abraham to sacrifice his son for him. Difficult suffering. Jesus said the way to a successful life is difficult. So we should expect that. It's like God would like our parents to have understood this and taught it to us from an early age, that successful living is about doing God's difficult will, even if it means like going to a cross or something. God's will is like going to a cross sometimes. Jesus said, deny your selfish pleasure seeking, take up my suffering will, my cross, and follow me. So you got two kinds of people in the world. People following Satan or a false Jesus that try to seek after all the pleasure in life. Like Jesus' temptation in the wilderness, Satan was tempting him, if you want to be king with power, you want all these kingdoms, Jesus, instead of doing God's suffering will, going to a cross, trying to tempt Jesus away from suffering and the cross and God's will. And that's our choice today. Do we want to be like the rich man going to hell in the parable, or like maybe the beggar suffering, doing God's will, and going to heaven forever instead? There's only two choices, God's will or Satan's will, and if you don't choose God's will, you choose Satan's will. And but like Jesus said, for the joy set before him, he suffered. Like the Bible says that it's like suffering love wins the most in heaven. It's like our judgment day is, how much did you love God with all your heart, your mind, soul, and strength? Did you suffer to love God? Get the rewards, get the great careers in heaven. Are we thinking about our careers in heaven? Priests or kings to God, a bride of Christ? Are we trying to develop our suffering love character for God now so that he can greatly reward us for it later? It's like I had a vision one time of Jesus at a blackboard, and there was a bunch of students or something, and he just wrote one sentence on there. Love is most important. It's like 1 Corinthians 13, without love you're nothing. It's like love is the greatest. So we have to be trying to learn how to love God and love others if we ever want to be successful in life. But it's not easy, it's difficult. When Jesus was talking about difficult is the way to a successful life in Matthew 7:14, he ends up saying there are few who find it. Few who find this success through the difficult life here on earth. So we need to try to break these bad habits we have from childhood. If we've been trying to think of success as about being rich or famous or powerful or having a suffering-free life, thinking that's the only way to be successful in God's eyes. You look at the story of Job or other people suffering in the Bible, Joseph in slavery, in a prison, Daniel in slavery, Jesus being persecuted by the religious leaders and the Romans, and Paul being persecuted with demon-controlled people that hate Christ, anti-Christ people. And it seems like we're going into more suffering in the future. The world is wanting to turn its back from God to pleasure, to selfishness, and that just makes a more wicked world to live in. So it's like thinking about what the future might bring. It could bring economic collapse, it could bring World War III, it could bring famine, it could bring rioting, it could bring apostasy. Apostasy is about the people that are trying to believe in a false Jesus, like a faith movement Jesus, a health and wealth gospel genie Jesus, and then when trouble hits their life, like an economic collapse or World War III or something, they think God has abandoned them, and they abandon God. Great apostasy is happening now. Great apostasy is coming. People would rather have selfish pleasure than doing God's suffering will today, and that causes apostasy. So we're headed for more suffering in the future, more tribulation, but we should be able to see that that can work out for our good. The more suffering we go for, and we still love God with all our heart, the greater rewards we get in heaven. The more we hear God saying, I really like what you're doing, taking up your cross, suffering for me, doing my suffering will, being successful my difficult way, not listening to Satan say, take the easy road to hell or something. Listening to Jesus say, take the difficult road to heaven. Take up your cross and follow me. So we need to pray, God, what do you want me to do? And if there's suffering involved with it, just keep saying yes, believing God will help us through it. Now, Satan may try to stop us. It makes life difficult for the Christian. It's like Satan asking for Peter to sift him like wheat and Jesus saying yes. It's like Jesus going through great temptation in the wilderness as a good love test for him. Do you love God or do you love the things of the world? So that's what we need to do. Love God, pray and obey, ask him what to do. Even if there's difficulty and suffering doing it, do it with his power to do it, and we'll be successful in life. But trying to run from suffering and trying to just want selfish pleasure all the time is not going to have us do God's suffering will for our life or be successful or get great rewards in heaven or great careers in heaven after we die. So that is a bit about Jesus says the way to success is difficult.